U.S. to enact a complete ban on TikTok. The state's Republican governor signing the measure, which takes effect next year on January 1st. It is, of course, expected to face some legal challenges. Brian Hoagley is a cybersecurity expert and the CEO of SideChannel. He joins us now live to help break all of this down. Thank you so much, as always, for taking the time to be here.
Thanks for having me.
So first off, what were your thoughts when you heard that Montana was going to ban TikTok altogether?
So first off, I didn't realize that this was really in the docket for Montana to address. There have been some other states that have been talking about this. I thought we're a little closer to this concept, but really the biggest revelation out of this and the legislation that the governor signed that was put forward was the way that they're looking to ban TikTok is very interesting. They're putting the onus really on the application store. So think about the Apple store or the Google store as being the area that actually needs to apply and adhere to this soon-to-be law.
So I guess the question, and you kind of touched on this here, is how does a full state, the complete state, even go about completely banning an app?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the things that I was really highlighting in last year, and especially when you and I talked first about this, was looking at the application stores as being the areas to have to remove this from their shelves, their digital shelves, if you will, to keep individuals from downloading and using it. I think that's really the only way to get about banning any type of application or usage. What's going to be very interesting is how does Montana actually address its geolocation or its geographic presence? You know, I as a user, if I'm driving through Montana from another state and I'm using TikTok, am I in violation of this? Or is Google in violation of allowing me to use it on my phone? Or is Apple in violation of me allowing to be able to use it on my phone? So I think the nature of the law is to address the risk that's been identified, that the Chinese Communist Party has influence over ByteDance. ByteDance owns TikTok. TikTok is used in potentially nefarious ways or could be used in ways to curb thinking, curb messaging for Americans. I think that's the intent of what Montana is looking to address. But how they're going to be able to actually enforce this, I'm not entirely clear that their intent is going to actually be met with the enforcement that they're going for. Again, how do you travel straight state lines, and how do you know if I'm in Montana or adjacent states using the application on my own personal device?
That's a very good question. I hadn't even thought about it from that aspect of what if you're just kind of traveling through. Now, do you think that more states are going to follow? Because we've heard lawmakers talking about TikTok and, putting bans on the app in different states, but we now know Montana's planning to do it. Do you think other states are going to do the same thing now?
I think what we'll see is this will be the litmus test for other states on what they will do. They'll look at, okay, Montana's broken it open, gone in, said, hey, we're the first ones. This is how we're going to address this. Does it work? Other states will now look at if this actually works or not, and they'll curb their legislation, if they are going to enact any, to meet something so that it'll work for them. I don't think there'll be a pure adoption of how Montana did it, and now other states will completely follow suit. What is interesting is the violations and the provisions in the sections around the amounts for each violation. It's per day. Are those going to be held against the mobile application store as the law says? And that would be Google and Apple. Or is that actually going to be against the TikTok itself? Or potentially, is that going to be against me, the citizen? Again, if I'm a Montana citizen or a non-Montana citizen, can I be fined this for using it? If I get pulled over by the police for a traffic stop and they also happen to look at my phone and I'm using TikTok and I'm from out of state, would I be arrested? Would I be fined? Would I be given a citation? I think the other states in the union are really going to look at that applicability to then decide, okay, is that how we want to treat this or not? I'll also be shocked to see if this actually stays in effect based on how it's written after January of next year. I think we're going to see Montana itself really relook at this and say, okay, hold on. Is what we intended actually what we enacted? Will they back off? Will they adjust it? Will they change it? I think that's to be decided.
And I love to ask a good loaded question here. So, what are the concerns that lawmakers seem to have overall? We've heard, again, a lot about this, very high profile news conferences that have been held, hearings as well. What are the main concerns when it comes to TikTok?
So this is actually an area that SideChannel and my company, we've been working with clients on. What are we thinking about from a foreign adversary standpoint, right? Corporations, it seems very clear. We don't want foreign adversaries, groups like the Chinese Communist Party and their military or economic operations groups to be able to infiltrate corporations to steal intellectual property, products, even bring systems down. But now it's translating to the person itself, right? If I'm a person working at a company, I'm still a person when I'm at home. And the influence on my personal device could be just as detrimental to how do I perceive things in society? Who am I voting for? What am I buying? How's my thinking changed? That could be just as impactful as when we look at cybersecurity concerns inside of corporations, kind of traditional. So this area very much a topic for really companies down to people, and they have to really look at what is it that we're trying to influence? What is it that they have the ability to do? This device on your phone, you are granting it a tremendous amount of access to your personal life, to your whereabouts, to your data, who you're with, the types of applications you have on your phone. Really a ability to profile any individual. And now think about doing that in aggregate across the millions of people using the application. Put all that information into the hands of what the United States, now Montana and many other states consider a foreign adversary. How can that then be used in nefarious and malicious ways, both again, against me as a person, me as a citizen within this sovereign country, and then me as a employee at a corporation or an organization. So all very relevant threats and risks that are being addressed. I think the United States as a whole, I think states individually are really trying to figure out how do we address that threat, and they're just trying things to kind of push the needle, to get the idea out, to see some applicability, to really kind of address the concern that we're facing. I mean, unfortunately, the genie's out. You know, these applications exist. They're pervasive. Now we unfortunately are at a spot where we need to react. And how do we try to bottle that back up, or at least reduce the amount of influence or impact applications like this can have?
So I guess what can people do right now to keep themselves safe? If you have TikTok, if your children have TikTok, what should you be doing to make sure that your information overall is safe and that you are safe?
So first thing is you have the control on your phone to be able to approve or deny the permissions that these applications have. If you're not willing to completely delete your account and remove the application because you love funny cat videos or the latest dances that much, the least that you can do is go into your phone, readjust the permissions that the application has on your phone. Don't grant it carte blanche access to your phone and microphone. Allow it to only be used when you're using the application. Don't allow it to have access to your GPS and other things. All of those permissions are standard. Google, Apple make those permissions available to you, the user, to be able to turn on and off. Fortunately, when TikTok applications like this are installed by default, we generally don't read all of the instructions and the terms and conditions that we are given. We accept the default, which allows them to have access to everything. Really go back in there, pull back all the things you're not necessarily comfortable with foreign adversary or a foreign company having access to about you. Adjust it to your own personal risk profile, what you're comfortable with, and then move on. Again, if you can't delete the app outright, at least you can contain what it has access to.
All right, Brian Hoagley with SideChannel there. Thank you so much, as always, for taking the time to be here. Anything else that you want to add before I let you go?
This has been an area that we've been talking about for, I think, well over a year. I'm glad to see that organizations and states now are starting to really look into this. I don't think it's going to work if every state decides its own rules. We need some type of federal national strategy around products, capabilities like this. We really need to focus in on mid-market startups, small businesses to be able to address this as well. Larger enterprises have the resources and the abilities, but really who's working for that little group, that middle group, and individuals. So we really need a really enforceful national strategy and capability to truly address these risks as they exist.
All right, Brian, thank you again for taking the time to be here. We appreciate it.